Hi, wives. Admit day, winding down. Listen, I think the reality or a hard truth for some wives to receive is there is a possibility that one or three things can happen during or on this journey. For the wives who may be living with their quote unquote separated spouse inside the home, the hard truth or reality to that is you may have to set some boundaries for yourself that will go against everything in you, or that will go against everything that represents a marriage. Because when you set these types of boundaries for yourself, it's almost like, well, while we are even here as husband and wife, we probably shouldn't even be, here like this if I have to set these types of boundaries. That's for the wives who may be in the home with her husband who's living a separate life, or may have to interact with her husband on a regular because of the kids or what have you. Another hard truth or reality for wives is accepting that the man that you love, the man that you fell in love with, the man that you married is no longer the same person. He's no longer the same person. And so because he's no longer that person, instead of you, I'm going back again to setting that boundary for yourself, you keep looking at him as the man that you married, the man that you fell in love, the man who treated you a certain type of way, the man who acted a certain type of way towards you. And he's not there anymore. He's not there anymore. And then thirdly, the hard truth or reality is this marriage might not be reconciled. This marriage may not come back together, or it may not be reconciled to the way that I think it's supposed to be. It may not necessarily be what I expected it to be. A lot of times, wives have this idea or picture based off of someone else's story or someone else's testimony, and they are looking for their story to line up with this, or to, it should be like this, or this should be happening this way. When the truth of the matter is, everyone who is on that type of journey, a journey of separation, has their own tailor-made journey. Everybody has their own specific story. We as coaches can only give you an understanding, insight, wisdom, guidance, support of how to walk through this in the most healthiest way, as you are trusting and believing God for your story to unfold, for your testimony to come out. That's the hard truth. That is the reality of this. And I think one of the saddest things is some wives are trying to make this be what they want it to be, not realizing that you can't box with God. You can't box with God. You can't make him do what you want him to do. The hard truth, the reality of some of this is you are going to have to surrender to this, or you walk away from it. You're going to have to surrender to God's will, or you don't stay married. You don't get to pick and choose your process. You don't get to pick and choose what the outcome is. You don't get to pick and choose that part, wife. God has asked you to trust him. He said, I chose you for this. I want you to stay. I want you to stay. I want you to do this and that. It may not necessarily be something that you will be comfortable with, feel comfortable with, want to do. And you have a choice in this. You have a choice. You don't have to do it. You don't. You don't have to go through with it. You're not obligated. You're not obligated. Because if you think that you are going to get God to do what you want him to do, I'm sorry to tell you, that's not how this go. That's not how this go. One of the things my YouTube mentors, Pastor Darius, always talks about is the acception. The acception. And he talks about how God makes promises and gives us promises, but there are times when that promise is connected to our obedience or to our part. It's the promise is connected to us doing our part. Like, we have a part in this. That just because God has made you a promise does not necessarily mean that promise have to be if you don't hold up your part of the bar. Why? Just because God has made you a promise about your marriage being reconciled or restored doesn't mean that you don't do your part. You have a part in this. And God does not have to do that if you are not doing your part. It goes both ways. It's two sides to this. I just talked about this yesterday. It's two sides to this. It's two sides to everything. And you have a choice. The reality is, a lot of wives is not going to get to that fulfillment place on this journey. A lot of wives are not going to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. A lot of wives are not going to experience that thing that God has told you that you can have. A lot of wives won't get to taste and see that the Lord is good. And the reason being, it's not because he's not a good God. He's not a good father. It's because wives are trying to do this thing their own way. They're picking and choosing how they do this journey. When I tell you, one of the hardest things I have experienced in my life, has been the process of going through what I had to go through in my marriage. The hardest thing I have ever had to experience. And I question God. Don't think God is concerned about you questioning him or asking him questions. No. But at the end, and ultimately when it's all said and done, after you done ask your questions, after you done sit there, after you done cry, after you done, spilled out your emotions and said what you done said, God is still looking for you to get yourself up, pick yourself up, get yourself together, and trust him. The hard truth, the reality is, until you make a decision, wife, unless you surrender to God's process, you will not see this. You will not see what he said that you can have. You won't see it. You won't experience it. And so that's why it's like, oh, well, this don't work, or oh, you do this, you do that. And let me say this. I want to just say this, and I'm finna hang up. I shared before, there's a time and a season for you to do spiritual warfare praying. I feel like sometimes wives feel like, okay, once I get the hang of spiritual warfare praying, I have arrived. Like, I don't need nothing else. But you have to understand, Spiritual warfare prayers is for a set time in season. That is not the prayers that God wants you to be praying the entire time on your marital stand, on your marital journey. Don't think, oh, I'm going to just keep praying these prayers. I'm going to just keep praying these prayers. I'm going to just keep praying these prayers. And God is going to come, he's going to come to my rescue because I'm praying these types of prayers. You have to know your season with that. You have to know when to pull those prayers out and when to stash them for another time. You have to know when to pray warfare prayers, and you have to know, like, this is just something I'm going to have to go through. You have to know that this is just something I'm going to have to just walk through. And I'm sorry to tell you, wife, this stuff is hard. It's hard. And if you think that you're going to just do this journey and you're not going to go through nothing, you're not going to feel nothing, you're not going to suffer through nothing, you're on the wrong journey. You're on the wrong journey. And no, God is not trying to keep you in a place of suffering. God don't want you to be in pain. He cares for you. God don't want you to be hurt, and no. But he is trying to teach you something. He is trying to show you something about yourself. He is trying to point some things out. There is a lesson to be learned. It's not just about the reconciliation of your marriage. God is trying to kill the flesh. So many wives want to know why is it taking so long? Why does this hurt so much? Why is it taking so long? He's doing something to your flesh. Baby, let me tell you something. You got the right one. If you think you're going to come up against God and make him do what you want to do, or make him do what you want him to do concerning your marriage, you got the right one. God is patient. God is patient. And he said, however many times you want to go around this mountain, I'll go around this mountain with you. But you will do this my way, or this don't work. And so that's why I always say, wives, get a coach, get somebody to walk with you on this journey. Because that will make you want to throw in the towel. That will make you be like, no, I don't want to keep doing this. The hard truth, the reality is, many wives will not be reconciled to their spouses because they're unwilling to do what's required of them. You doing your part, wife, and you doing your work is not about your husband. It's not about your husband. Your husband benefits from this. Your family benefits from this. Your future benefits from this. But you doing your part and doing your work, that's about you. And so I just thought I'd share that with y'all today. That's the reality. That's the hard truth. If you are ready to do your work, wife, I want to encourage you. Sign up for your wife consultation. You can sign up today at www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. Blessings.